When I remove the force of the wastebasket, those molecules are uncompressing and returning to their normal shape. Compressed, uncompressed. That brings us to the next thing, which is the difference between stress and strain. Stress, and that's not the right slide. Stress is a force per unit area. And strain is the change in shape. So if that wastebasket weighs 1 pound, the force is 1 pound. If the bottom of the wastebasket is 1 square foot, the force is 1 pound, but the stress is 1 pound per square foot. And the strain exhibited by or experienced by the table is very, very, very small. The strain is how much does the shape change. So the table, let's talk about the table. The table is experiencing a force of 1 pound. The table is experiencing a stress of 1 pound per square inch. And the table is experiencing a strain of ever so little, imperceptibly small strain. But what about things that experience larger strains? Let's move from the wastebasket on the table to a building. The building weighs lots, tons. And let's move from the table to the earth. What is the earth experiencing in this? The earth is experiencing a stress of, let's say, 1,000 tons for the entire area of the building. Let's say that the footprint of the building is 1,000 square feet, just to keep the math easy. We like to use math, but we like to keep the math easy. So let's say it's 1,000 tons and 1,000 square feet. What's the stress placed on the earth? Think about that. 1,000 tons spread out over 1,000 square feet. First of all, think about the units we would use. What would be the units of the stress experienced by the earth? What would it be? Pounds per square foot, or, keeping the math simple, tons per square foot is fine. So those of you who thought in your mind, okay, the force is in tons, the area is in square feet. I can picture an area. The stress is in force per unit area. The stress is in tons per square foot. In this case, a 1,000-ton building spreading its weight over an area of 1,000 square feet gives you a stress of 1 ton per square foot. Now, the 3 most important things to do in a foundation. Oh, let's go back one. Now let's talk about strain. What happens when you put a 1,000-ton building on a 1,000 square foot area of ground? And that exerts a stress on the ground of 1 ton per square foot. What happens to the ground? Yes, sir. Is what? Exactly right, and even expressed using the right words. He says it strains. The earth strains a little bit. That is exactly correct. The stress of 1,000 pounds or the stress of 1 ton per square foot induces a strain in the earth. It changes the shape of the earth below it. It actually settles. So let's look at that. So the job of a foundation system, first of all, there are 3 jobs. The first job of a foundation system is to spread out those forces, whatever force is coming down, 1,000 tons. The foundation system's job is to spread that force of 1,000 tons, is to spread it out enough so the earth can handle it. If the earth is rock, bedrock, that earth might be able to deal with 10,000 pounds per square foot. If the earth is soil, it might only be able to deal with 3,000 pounds per square foot. If that earth is something weaker than normal consolidated soil, it might only be able to handle 1,000 pounds per square foot. And so depending on the size, depending on the bearing capacity, there's an important term. Depending on the soil's bearing capacity, the footing needs to either be very large to spread that force out, so you reduce the stress and reduce the strain, or if it's on bedrock, it can handle a lot of stress without straining much, without changing shape much. You can make the footings very small. And there's a wonderful illustration on page 23 of Ching's structures book that I'm sorry I don't have here, that shows you the same force on very high capacity, bearing capacity soil, which is a small footing, and of the same force coming down on lower capacity soils where the footing gets larger and larger. Okay. So if it's on bedrock, there's very little settlement. The strain of the earth is very low, like the table. It can be almost imperceptible, and that's a good thing. That's the goal. If we can't have no settlement, and actually there's always some settlement, just like the table is deforming a little bit, no matter what. If we can't have no or almost no settlement, at least the goal of a good foundation system is to at least accomplish uniform settlement. If it's going to sink into the ground an inch, let's make it an inch everywhere. So in order to do that, we try to make the stress imposed on every part of the footing foundation system the same stress, assuming that the soils will compress the same amount if they're exposed to the same stress. Now, there's one important thing wrong with this assumption, is that soils change all the time, all over the place, somewhat. And so you could find yourself on a building site where half of it is a ledge of rock and half of it is sand. So you would have to, and you won't know that until the excavator comes in and digs the basement for the foundation system. So it's not uncommon for engineers and architects to have to scramble during construction to redesign the footing and foundation system. The object is to avoid this, differential settlement. What does differential settlement do? In extreme cases, this is what differential settlement does. It's much more common, though, that differential settlement causes havoc to be wreaked on buildings. The finishes crack. Looks like they fixed this one. But at the corner of doorways, you get diagonal cracking. And that's how you know when the foundation system was inadequate and you have differential settlement. So the three goals of a foundation system, and this is on your lecture sheet, is first to reduce the strain of the soil. The second thing is to make it even across the whole building. And at the very least, the third thing is to make it predictable so that you can account for it.